Hi. In this lesson, I want to talk a little bit about color. The learning targets for this lesson, understanding that color affects your subconscious. Because of that, color can have an impact on your emotions. And knowing that as an artist, you can use your artwork to manipulate the way the viewer feels. So first, it's important to understand how color affects your subconscious. It looks at the world and it tries to make sense of it. It tries to fill in some of the gaps that you're missing. Context becomes very important. So, for example, see if you can read line 1. How about line 2? How about line 3? How does it work? How are you able to figure out what that says? It just seems so random. And the reason is that your subconscious fills in the gaps. It looks at the context of the letters and it figures it out. CA usually appears in that context followed by the letter N, so it fills in the gaps. When it sees a Y and a gap and a U, more often than not, there's an O in there. Your subconscious fills in the gaps. So your subconscious looked at the letters and put them into context so that they would make sense. Your subconscious does the same thing with color. It'll look at color, put it into context, and then try to make sense of it. So what do I mean by that? Well, let's look at this cube. When you look at this cube, your subconscious is already starting to make judgments. So it's looking at the side that's facing you, and it's determining that that side is in shadow. The top of the cube is in direct light. So what that means is that that one square on the side where the arrow is pointing at, in context, that square should be orange. That's what orange would look like if it were in shadow. The square up on the top, well, that square is brown because that's what brown would look like in direct light. The reality is that both of those squares are the exact same color. So why do we see them so differently? Why do we see one area that's brown look orange and another area that's brown look brown? It has to do with the context. Same color, just different context. That's why these rectangles look so different. In context, one of them is in shadow, so it appears much brighter. The appearance of color changes based on the context and the colors surrounding it. When this happens, we call it simultaneous contrast. It helps to explain the mystery of the dress. Is it blue and black, or is it white and gold? It depends on how you first saw the dress in context. If you see the dress as if it were in shadow, the lighter areas appear to be white because that's what white looks like when it's in shadow. The other areas appear to be gold because that's what gold looks like in shadow. However, when bright light shines on blue, it looks the same. And when bright light is shining on black, it can have the appearance of gold. So it has to do with the context. In this context, can you see the dress as blue and black? Pause the video for a little bit and just stare at it. You'll begin to see the dress as blue and black. Now moving forward, now can we see the dress as white and gold? Different context. But it's the exact same dress. So what was it in reality? Well, that would depend on if the light were coming from the front or the back. Let's see if this changes things. This area right here was a mirror. That means the dress was coming from the front. That means the dress was blue and black. Let's look at some more color in context, and we'll go back and look at the cube. But now we're going to look at it as if we were looking through two different filters. The filter on the left is yellow, and the filter on the right appears blue. So what color are the squares that the arrows are pointing to? Well, on the left, they appear to be blue. On the right, we're pointing at squares that appear to be yellow. That's what yellow looks like when you're looking through a blue filter. The reality is, all of those squares are the same color. Let's look at this rectangle up here. We'll bring it down first into the yellow filter, and now let's bring it down into the blue filter. Same color, it looks very different depending upon the context. For those of you that think I was messing with the color a little bit when I did that, let's just slide the entire part of the cube over, and you can see it is in fact the same color. This is called simultaneous contrast. Color affects other colors. Sometimes we use a color and it clashes with the other colors around it. How a color behaves in relation to the other colors and shapes is a complex area of color theory. Understanding how simultaneous contrast works is important. This is why it's important for you to know what your background is going to be before you create the painting. Because if you paint the background after you're finished with the subject, it can change the way the subject looks. So now let's consider the idea of balance. Your eyes and your subconscious are always striving to achieve balance. Just as if you were carrying a heavy weight in one hand, the muscle strain on one side of your body might start to ache. Your muscles are out of balance. Sometimes it's easier to carry two weights in both hands to distribute the balance more. The same thing is happening with your eyes. If you stare at an image, the nerves that respond to those colors, to that light and dark, they'll start to get fatigued and they'll start to get tired. Your brain will start to turn off some of the nerves that are being overstimulated. And then the ones that are relaxing, it'll just turn those on. Sort of like you're carrying a heavy weight in one hand, your body will tend to lean to one side to help that. Now stare at the center of this image for about 30 seconds. Pause the video and then click to the next screen. Let's see if you notice an after image. So stare right at that little plus sign in the center of the image. Do you notice an after image? Weird, isn't it? That's what happens when you put your eyes out of balance. Your body tries to achieve the balance by turning some nerves off, turning some nerves on. Let's try it again. Look right in the center of the image. Do you see the after image? This works not just with black and white, but it works with color too. If we stare at her nose for 30 seconds, your eyes are getting overwhelmed with blue. They're getting overwhelmed with white. And we click away, you should see a normal colored image. These are just a few ways that color can affect your subconscious, but they can also affect your emotions. Artists have figured out how to group colors together to affect you in different ways. Understanding how colors can impact the viewer, they can manipulate the way the viewer feels. When artists do this, we would call that that they're creating a basic color scheme. There are ways to group the colors to get the desired effect by the artist. So we'll start by looking at some of the general ways that different colors can affect you. And we'll start with yellow. It's a single hue mixed with white and black and gray to create a variety of tints, shades, and tones. In the top upper left side, you're going to see yellow at its most intense. Moving over to the right, it becomes higher and higher in value. Moving diagonally, it becomes lower in value. And then moving down, it becomes less and less intense. Now, yellow is a very cheerful, sunny color. It's an attention getter. It's bright. It's extremely bright. It's the highest value of all of the colors. Now, because of this, it can be exhausting to your eye. What starts out as excitement, what starts out as energy, eventually leads to fatigue. It leads to frustration. Babies will start to cry after a little while in a yellow room. Now, if you take yellow in small doses, it can actually enhance your concentration. That's why they use it for legal pads. And because it's kind of spurring on some energy, it can speed up your metabolism. It's loud, it's cheery. It's most fatiguing to the eye due to the high amount of light that's reflected. It can be associated with cowardice, with treachery, with criminals. Let's look at red now. Again, in the upper left-hand corner, we're going to have red at its most intense. Moving to the right, it becomes higher in value. Moving diagonally, it becomes lower in value. And moving down, it becomes less intense. Red is the most emotionally intense color. It stimulates a faster heartbeat, faster breathing. It represents the color of love, but it also represents the color of hate. Again, it evokes very strong emotions. It's an attention getter. It's noticed easily. That's why red cars are popular targets for thieves. It's why red cars tend to get tickets more often. It's why insurance companies used to charge higher premiums for people that drove red cars. It's not a good color to wear to an interview, as it's quite intimidating. The most romantic color, pink, is a high value of red. It's actually quite tranquilizing. Sports teams used to paint the locker rooms used by the opposing teams bright pink to help zap the energy of their opponents. You thought you were just getting changed in the girls' locker room. Nope. Red is a bright, warm color, evokes strong emotions. It's associated with strength, masculinity, dignity, charm, love, hate, compassion. Blue. Blue is the color of the sky and the ocean. It's one of the most popular colors. It has the opposite effect as red. Instead of being highly emotional, it lacks emotion. It's quite peaceful and tranquil. It calms the body. That's why it's often used in bedrooms. However, taken to the extreme, without any emotion at all, blue can become quite cold and depressing. Now, fashion consultants do recommend wearing blue to job interviews because it symbolizes loyalty. People are more productive in blue rooms, and studies show that weightlifters are able to handle heavier weights in blue rooms. It's often described as a favorite color by men. It brings to mind feelings of calmness and serenity. It's described as a feminine color. It's relaxed, it's mature, it's peaceful, tranquil. Again, taken to its extreme, it can start to produce feelings of sadness and depression. It's the least appetizing of color. If you want to lose weight, try eating off of a blue plate. In nature, food is rarely blue. Aside from some blueberries and plums, if your food is blue, more often than not, it's moldy and spoiled. Now, combining pigments can often combine the emotional impact it has on the viewer. So combining the yellow pigment and the red pigment, we get orange. It's an energetic color like yellow, but it has some of the emotions of red. It produces feelings of excitement, joy, happiness. It radiates warmth and enthusiasm. It's often the color used for traffic signals. So let's look at this little girl painted in the color orange. She just looks like she's radiating happiness and joy. Consider that same girl in blue. Now she just looks a little creepy, sinister. Combining the calmness of blue and the high emotion of red, we get purple. It usually signifies luxury and wealth and sophistication because it is such a rare color. It was difficult to make for a long time. It starts to appear artificial. It doesn't look real. It's become associated with power, melancholy, mystical thought, wisdom, spirituality. Let's combine the excitement of yellow and the low emotion of blue, and we get green. Currently the most popular decorating color, green symbolizes nature. It's the easiest color on your eyes. In fact, green can actually improve your vision. It's calming, it's refreshing. It makes you feel as if you've taken a nap. That's why people who appear on TV will oftentimes sit in a green room to relax before appearing. Hospitals will use green because it oftentimes relaxes the patients. Green is a masculine color. It's conservative. It implies wealth. Green can improve your reading ability. Some students find that laying a transparent sheet of green paper over their reading material increases their reading speed and comprehension. For any of you who tend to get tired when you're reading a book, try putting a layer of green transparent paper over it. Brown. Basically, it's a low value of orange. It's solid, reliable. It's the color of earth. Kind of evokes a sense of strength and reliability. It can create feelings of sadness and isolation, but usually it brings to mind feelings of warmth and comfort. Black is typically associated with authority and power. It's popular in fashion because it makes people appear thinner. It implies submission. Priests wear black to signify submission to God. Black outfits can also be overpowering or make the wearer seem aloof or evil. Villains in the movies oftentimes wear black. Because black absorbs all light, it's often feared. And because of that, it's associated with death and mourning. White symbolizes innocence and purity. It reflects all light. It's considered a summer color. It's popular in decorating and in fashion because it's light, it's neutral, tends to go with everything. It can make spaces appear larger. Now, knowing this about colors, Artists will oftentimes pick a series of colors knowing the impact that they're going to have. The first color scheme we'll look at is complementary colors. This is where you're selecting two colors that are opposite on the color wheel. When combined, they would produce a neutral gray. Because of this, it tends to provide a balance to your eyes. They feel relaxed. They don't feel overwhelmed. Here are some examples of a green and red complementary color scheme. Here are some orange and blue. Purple and yellow. Now we'll look at something called a split complementary color scheme. This is when you select three colors, one of them opposite the other two. Here's a triad color scheme. This is when you select colors that are equally distant on the color wheel. Red, yellow, blue, violet, orange, green, red, orange, blue, violet, yellow, green. Analogous colors are colors that are very close to each other on the color wheel. Yellow, orange, red. Yellow, yellow, green, green. It can feel harmonious. Well, that's it. I will have an assignment following this presentation. Thanks.